Picture this, a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, standing at the edge of a river that glows with an eerie, otherworldly light. The air is thick with silence, broken only by the faint sound of water lapping against a wooden boat. This is Charon, the ferryman of the dead, tasked with guiding souls across the river Styx into the realm of the afterlife. But who is this mysterious figure, and what secrets lie hidden in the ancient legends that surround him? In this video, we'll uncover 25 captivating stories about Charon, from his origins in Greek mythology to his enduring influence in modern culture. Each tale reveals a new layer of this enigmatic figure, offering a glimpse into the beliefs and fears of ancient civilizations. So, are you ready to step into the boat and journey into the unknown? Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll see Charon not just as a myth, but as a symbol of the timeless human fascination with life, death, and what lies beyond. Now, let's set our sights on the very beginning of Charon's story. To truly understand the ferryman of the dead, we must travel back to his origins in Greek mythology. Charon's earliest mentions paint him as a figure born from the shadows of the cosmos. He is often described as the child of Nyx, the primordial goddess of night, and Erebus, the personification of darkness. These two powerful forces of the ancient world gave rise to Charon, a being destined to dwell in the liminal space between life and death. From the start, Charon's role was clear. He was the ferryman, the one who guided souls across the river Styx into the underworld. But his character wasn't always as defined as it is in later myths. In early Greek traditions, Charon was more of a shadowy, almost anonymous figure, a silent guide who simply carried out his duties without much personality or backstory. Over time, however, his character began to take on more depth. As Greek mythology evolved, so did Charon. He became more than just a ferryman. He became a symbol of the inevitable journey every soul must take. By the time of the classical period, Charon had transformed into a more distinct and recognizable figure. He was no longer just a nameless guide, but a key player in the mythology of the underworld. His appearance, his demeanor, and even his interactions with the living and the dead became more fleshed out in stories and art. This evolution reflects how the ancient Greeks grappled with the concept of death and the afterlife, using Charon as a way to personify the transition from one realm to the next. So, as we delve deeper into the legends of Charon, remember this: his origins are not just a starting point, but a foundation that reveals how mythology grows and changes over time. And with that, let's continue our journey into the next chapter of Charon's story. Now, let's turn our attention to the River Styx, the legendary waterway that serves as the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. This river isn't just a physical barrier in Greek mythology. It's a powerful symbol of transition, finality, and the sacred divide that separates life from death. The Styx was considered one of the most sacred rivers in the underworld, and its waters were said to hold immense power. In fact, the gods themselves swore oaths by the Styx, and breaking such an oath was believed to bring severe consequences even for the immortals. The River Styx wasn't just any river, it was a place of transformation. For the ancient Greeks, crossing its dark, swirling waters meant leaving behind the world they knew and stepping into the unknown realm of Hades. This journey wasn't one that could be made alone. That's where Charon comes in. As the ferryman of the dead, Charon's role was intrinsically tied to the Styx. He was the one who guided souls across its treacherous currents, ensuring they reached the other side safely. Without Charon, the journey across the Styx would have been impossible, leaving souls stranded in a liminal space between life and death. But why was the Styx chosen as the boundary? In Greek mythology, the Styx represented more than just a physical divide. It embodied the concept of finality and the irreversible nature of death. Once a soul crossed the Styx, there was no turning back. This idea of permanence made the river a fitting symbol for the transition to the afterlife. The Styx also had a mystical quality to it. Some legends suggest that its waters could grant invincibility, as seen in the story of Achilles, whose mother dipped him in the river to make him invulnerable, though she held him by the heel, leaving that one spot unprotected. Charon's connection to the Styx goes even deeper. The river wasn't just his workplace, it was a part of his identity. In many depictions, Charon is shown standing in his boat, poling across the dark waters with a solemn expression. His presence on the Styx reinforced the idea that death was a journey, one that required a guide. The river's sacred nature also elevated Charon's role, making him more than just a ferryman. He was a guardian of the boundary between worlds, a figure who ensured that the natural order of life and death was maintained. As we explore the legends of Charon, it's impossible to separate him from the River Styx. Together, they form a powerful symbol of the journey every soul must take, a reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of life. And with that, let's move forward to uncover more about Charon's role in the myths and rituals of the ancient world. Now, let's delve into one of the most fascinating aspects of Charon's role, the ancient Greek tradition of placing a coin in the mouth of the deceased. This coin, known as an obol, was believed to be the fee required for Charon to ferry a soul across the River Styx. Without this payment, the journey to the afterlife was thought to be impossible, leaving the soul stranded on the wrong side of the river. The practice of placing an obol in the mouth of the dead was deeply rooted in Greek funerary customs. Families would carefully prepare their loved ones for burial, ensuring they had everything they needed for the journey ahead. The coin was often placed under the tongue or between the teeth, symbolizing the soul's readiness to pay Charon for his services. This ritual wasn't just a formality, it was a vital step in ensuring a peaceful transition to the afterlife. But what happened to those who couldn't afford this payment? According to legend, souls without an obol were doomed to wander the shores of the Styx for 100 years, unable to cross. These restless spirits were said to haunt the living, their cries echoing in the night as they waited for their chance to move on. This belief underscored the importance of proper burial rites in ancient Greek culture. It wasn't just about honoring the dead, it was about ensuring their eternal peace. The coin itself held symbolic significance as well. The obol was a small, humble piece of currency, yet it carried immense weight in the spiritual realm. It represented the idea that even in death there was a cost to be paid, a reminder that nothing in life or the afterlife was truly free. This concept resonated deeply with the ancient Greeks, who saw death as a journey that required preparation, respect, and above all, payment. Charon's role as the collector of this fee further cemented his importance in the mythology of the underworld. He wasn't just a ferryman, he was a gatekeeper, a figure who held the key to the afterlife. His demand for payment reinforced the idea that death was a solemn, sacred transition, one that required both effort and sacrifice. As we reflect on this ancient custom, it's clear that the coin for passage was more than just a ritual, it was a powerful symbol of the connection between the living and the dead. It reminds us that even in the face of death, there are traditions and beliefs that bind us together, offering comfort and meaning in the face of the unknown. And with that, let's continue our journey into the next chapter of Charon's story. Now, let's turn our attention to how Charon was envisioned by the ancient world, his appearance which has fascinated and unsettled audiences for centuries. In most depictions, Charon is portrayed as a grim, shadowy figure, cloaked in a hooded robe that conceals his face, leaving only a sense of foreboding. His presence is often accompanied by a long pole or oar, the tool of his trade, which he uses to guide his boat across the dark waters of the Styx. This image of Charon as a somber, almost spectral figure reflects the ancient Greeks' view of death as a solemn and inevitable journey. But Charon's appearance wasn't always consistent. In some ancient texts, he is described as having a more rugged, almost monstrous demeanor, with wild, unkempt hair and a weathered face marked by the passage of time. These descriptions emphasize his role as a figure who exists outside the realm of the living, a being who has witnessed countless souls pass from one world to the next. In other interpretations, particularly in Roman art, Charon is shown as more human-like, though still stern and imposing, with a focus on his role as a guide rather than a fearsome enforcer. Interestingly, the Etruscans, who had their own rich mythology surrounding the afterlife, depicted Charon in a slightly different light. In their art, he often appears with a hammer or mallet, a symbol of his authority over the dead. This variation highlights how different cultures adapted Charon's image to fit their own beliefs about death and the afterlife. While the Greeks and Romans saw him primarily as a ferryman, the Etruscans viewed him as a more active figure, one who could both transport and command the souls of the departed. Over time, Charon's appearance has continued to evolve, influenced by the artistic and cultural trends of each era. In medieval and Renaissance art, for example, he is sometimes depicted with more elaborate, almost demonic features, reflecting the period's fascination with the darker aspects of mythology. In modern interpretations, Charon's image has been reimagined in countless ways, from the skeletal boatman of popular media to more nuanced portrayals that explore his role as a guide between worlds. What remains consistent across all these depictions, however, is the sense of mystery and power that surrounds Charon. Whether he is shown as a hooded ferryman, a rugged figure with a pole, or a hammer-wielding enforcer, his appearance serves as a reminder of the solemnity and inevitability of death. And as we move forward, we'll explore how this iconic figure interacts with other key elements of the underworld, shedding light on the deeper meanings behind his role in ancient mythology. Now let's step into the realm of Charon's boat, a vessel that carries more than just souls. It carries the weight of one of mythology's most profound transitions. Charon's boat is not just a means of transportation, it's a powerful symbol of the journey from life to death, a threshold that every soul must cross. In ancient depictions, the boat is often shown as a simple, almost rudimentary craft, made of dark, weathered wood, reflecting the somber nature of its purpose. Its design is intentionally unadorned, stripped of any luxury or comfort, emphasizing the stark reality of death and the equality of all souls before it. The boat itself is a fascinating piece of symbolism. Its small size and fragile appearance suggest the vulnerability of the human soul as it leaves the physical world behind. Yet, despite its simplicity, the boat is sturdy enough to navigate the treacherous waters of the River Styx, a testament to Charon's skill and the inevitability of the journey. The boat's oar, often depicted as long and worn, is another key element. It represents Charon's role as a guide, steering souls through the unknown and ensuring they reach their final destination. This imagery reinforces the idea that death is not an end but a passage, a transition from one state of being to another. In some interpretations, the boat is also seen as a liminal space, a place where the boundaries between life and death blur. Once a soul steps onto Charon's boat, they are no longer part of the living world but not yet fully in the realm of the dead. This in-between state is both unsettling and transformative, a moment of reckoning where the soul confronts the reality of its mortality. The boat, in this sense, becomes a metaphor for the human experience of death, a journey that is both universal and deeply personal. The design of the boat also reflects the cultural values of the ancient Greeks and Romans. Its lack of ornamentation underscores the belief that death is a great equalizer, stripping away the distinctions of wealth, status, and power that define the living world. In this way, Charon's boat serves as a reminder of the humility and inevitability of death, a theme that resonates across time and cultures. As we consider the role of Charon's boat, it's impossible to ignore its connection to the broader mythology of the underworld. The boat is not just a vessel, it's a bridge between worlds, a physical manifestation of the transition that every soul must undergo. And as we continue to explore the legends of Charon, we'll see how this symbolism extends to other aspects of his role, revealing deeper layers of meaning in the ancient myths. Next, we'll delve into how Charon's story intertwines with Roman mythology, shedding light on the ways his character was adapted and reimagined across cultures. Now, let's shift our focus to how Charon's story unfolds in Roman mythology, where his character takes on subtle but fascinating new dimensions. While the Romans largely adopted Charon from Greek mythology, they didn't simply copy him, they reimagined him to fit their own cultural and religious framework. In Roman mythology, Charon retains his core role as the ferryman of the dead, guiding souls across the River Styx. However, the way he is portrayed and the significance of his role reflect the unique values and beliefs of Roman society. One key difference lies in how the Romans viewed Charon's demeanor. While the Greeks often depicted him as grim and foreboding, the Romans occasionally softened his image, portraying him as more of a neutral figure rather than a fearsome one. This shift may reflect the Roman emphasis on order and duty, where Charon is seen as a dutiful servant of the underworld rather than a menacing enforcer. His role becomes less about instilling fear and more about maintaining the balance between life and death, a concept that resonated deeply with Roman ideals of structure and governance. Another notable difference is how Charon was integrated into Roman religious practices. The Romans had a more practical approach to death and the afterlife, often focusing on rituals that ensured a smooth transition for the deceased. While the Greeks placed a coin in the mouth of the dead to pay Charon, the Romans expanded this practice, sometimes including additional offerings or prayers to appease him. This reflects a broader Roman tendency to adapt and refine Greek traditions, making them more elaborate and systematic. Interestingly, the Romans also linked Charon to their own underworld deities such as Pluto, the Roman equivalent of Hades. In this context, Charon's role becomes more intertwined with the broader hierarchy of the underworld. While in Greek mythology he is often seen as a somewhat independent figure, in Roman mythology he is more clearly subordinate to Pluto, emphasizing the Roman preference for clear chains of command and structured power dynamics. Despite these differences, the essence of Charon's role remains the same across both cultures. He is still the ferryman, the guide who ensures that souls make their final journey. Yet, the way he is perceived and worshipped reveals much about the values of each society. For the Greeks, Charon embodies the mystery and inevitability of death, while for the Romans, he represents order and duty in the face of life's greatest transition. As we move forward, we'll explore how Charon's interactions with legendary heroes further shape his role in mythology, shedding light on the ways these stories reflect ancient beliefs about life, death, and the human condition. Now, let's turn our attention to the tales of legendary heroes who crossed paths with Charon during their journeys to the underworld. These stories not only highlight Charon's role as the gatekeeper of the dead, but also reveal how his encounters with these heroes shaped their myths and deepened our understanding of ancient beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife. One of the most famous heroes to meet Charon was Hercules, the mighty demigod known for his incredible strength and daring feats. In one of his 12 labors, Hercules was tasked with capturing Cerberus, the three-headed guardian of the underworld. To complete this mission, Hercules had to descend into the realm of the dead, where he encountered Charon at the banks of the River Styx. Unlike ordinary souls, Hercules didn't need a coin to secure passage. Instead, he used his sheer force to intimidate Charon into ferrying him across. This moment underscores Hercules' extraordinary status, as even the ferryman of the dead couldn't deny him. It also highlights Charon's role as a figure who upholds the rules of the underworld, even when faced with a hero of unparalleled power. Another hero who famously met Charon was Orpheus, the gifted musician whose love for his wife, Eurydice, drove him to venture into the underworld. After Eurydice's tragic death, Orpheus sought to bring her back to the world of the living. When he reached the River Styx, Charon initially refused to let him cross as Orpheus was still alive. However, Orpheus used his enchanting music to charm Charon, persuading him to make an exception. This interaction not only showcases Charon's adherence to the rules, but also reveals his capacity for compassion when moved by something as powerful as Orpheus's love and artistry. It's a poignant reminder of how even the stern Ferryman could be swayed by the depth of human emotion. These encounters between Charon and the heroes offer fascinating insights into how ancient myths explored themes of mortality, heroism, and the boundaries between life and death. For Hercules, Charon's role emphasizes the hero's superhuman abilities and his ability to challenge even the most rigid structures of the underworld. For Orpheus, Charon becomes a symbol of the barriers that separate the living from the dead, barriers that can only be crossed through extraordinary means, whether it's strength, love, or art. As we continue, we'll delve deeper into Charon's relationships with other figures in the underworld, exploring how these connections further define his role in mythology and what they reveal about ancient views on death and the afterlife. Now let's shift our focus to Charon's relationship with Hades, the god of the underworld. This connection is central to understanding Charon's role and how he fits into the broader hierarchy of the afterlife. While Charon is often depicted as a key figure in the underworld, his exact relationship with Hades has been interpreted in various ways across different myths and traditions. In many stories, Charon is portrayed as a servant of Hades, dutifully carrying out his task of ferrying souls across the River Styx. This view emphasizes Charon's role as a loyal figure who operates under the authority of the god of the underworld. His job is essential to maintaining the order of the afterlife, ensuring that souls reach their final destination in Hades' realm. This dynamic suggests a clear hierarchy, with Hades as the ruler and Charon as a trusted subordinate who enforces the rules of passage. However, some interpretations present Charon as more of an independent figure, working alongside Hades rather than directly under him. In these accounts, Charon is seen as a guardian of the boundary between life and death, a role that grants him a certain level of autonomy. While he cooperates with Hades, he is not entirely beholden to him, and his decisions such as whether to allow a soul to cross are based on his own judgment. This perspective highlights Charon's importance as a gatekeeper, someone who holds significant power over the fate of the dead. There are also myths that suggest a more complex relationship between the two figures. In some traditions, Charon is depicted as an ally of Hades, sharing a mutual respect and understanding. Their partnership ensures the smooth operation of the underworld, with Charon handling the transportation of souls while Hades oversees their final judgment and placement. This portrayal underscores the idea that both figures are essential to the functioning of the afterlife, each playing a distinct but complementary role. Ultimately, Charon's relationship with Hades reflects the multifaceted nature of ancient mythology, where roles and relationships are rarely black and white. Whether seen as a servant, an ally, or an independent figure, Charon's connection to Hades highlights the intricate balance of power and responsibility in the underworld. This dynamic not only deepens our understanding of Charon's character, but also sheds light on how the ancient Greeks viewed the afterlife as a carefully structured realm governed by both cooperation and hierarchy. As we move forward, we'll explore how Charon's role extends beyond his relationship with Hades, examining his interactions with other underworld figures and the broader implications of his duties. Now, let's journey beyond Greek and Roman mythology to explore how the Etruscans, an ancient civilization of Italy, viewed Charon. The Etruscan interpretation of Charon offers a fascinating glimpse into how different cultures adapted and reimagined this iconic figure of the underworld. While the Etruscans shared some similarities with Greek and Roman traditions, their depiction of Charon, or Charon as they called him, carries distinct characteristics that set him apart. In Etruscan mythology, Charon is not just a ferryman but a far more menacing and powerful figure. Unlike the often grim but relatively neutral Charon of Greek lore, Charon is depicted as a fearsome demonic entity. He is frequently shown wielding a hammer, a symbol of his role in delivering the final blow to the deceased, ensuring their passage into the afterlife. This portrayal emphasizes his authority over death itself, making him a figure of both dread and reverence. The Etruscans also gave Charon a more active role in the judgment of souls. While in Greek mythology, Charon's primary duty is to transport souls, Charon is often depicted as an enforcer of divine justice. He is sometimes shown alongside other underworld deities such as Vanth, a winged female figure who guides souls to their final resting place. Together, they represent the dual forces of judgment and transition, highlighting the Etruscan belief in a more interactive and dynamic afterlife process. Artistically, Charon's appearance in Etruscan art is strikingly different from his Greek counterpart. He is often portrayed with a grotesque, almost monstrous visage, complete with a hooked nose, wild hair, and sometimes even animalistic features like fangs or claws. These visual elements underscore his role as a terrifying guardian of the underworld, someone who commands respect and fear in equal measure. This stark contrast to the more subdued depictions of Charon in Greek art reflects the Etruscans' unique cultural perspective on death and the afterlife. Interestingly, the Etruscans also associated Charon with the concept of time. Some interpretations suggest that his hammer symbolizes not only the finality of death but also the relentless passage of time, a theme that resonates deeply in Etruscan funerary art. This dual symbolism reinforces the idea that Charon was not just a ferryman but a figure deeply intertwined with the existential themes of mortality and eternity. The Etruscan version of Charon offers a compelling example of how mythological figures can evolve across cultures. By transforming Charon into Charon, the Etruscans created a figure who embodies their own beliefs about death, judgment, and the afterlife. This adaptation not only enriches our understanding of Charon's legacy, but also highlights the diverse ways ancient civilizations grappled with the mysteries of life and death. As we continue, we'll delve into how Charon's role reflects broader ancient beliefs about death and the journey of the soul, exploring the deeper symbolism behind his duties and the cultural significance of his character. Now, let's turn our attention to how Charon's role as the ferryman of the dead reflects the broader ancient Greek and Roman beliefs about death, the afterlife, and the journey of the soul. In these cultures, death was not seen as an end but as a transition, a passage from one state of existence to another. Charon's duty to ferry souls across the River Styx embodies this idea of transition, serving as a bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. His role underscores the belief that death is not a final destination but a journey, one that requires guidance and preparation. In ancient Greek and Roman thought, the journey to the afterlife was deeply tied to moral and spiritual accountability. The placement of a coin in the mouth of the deceased, meant as payment for Charon, was more than just a ritual. It was a symbolic act of ensuring a smooth passage. This practice highlights the belief that the dead needed to be properly equipped for their journey, both materially and spiritually. Those who could not pay Charon were doomed to wander the shores of the Styx, a fate that reinforced the importance of proper burial rites and the consequences of neglecting them. Charon's role also reflects the ancient understanding of death as a universal equalizer. Regardless of one's status in life, whether king or commoner, every soul had to face Charon and pay the toll for passage. This idea of equality in death was a powerful reminder of life's impermanence and the inevitability of mortality. It also emphasized the belief that the afterlife was a place where earthly hierarchies no longer held sway, and all souls were subject to the same divine law. Moreover, Charon's presence in mythology highlights the ancient belief in a structured and orderly afterlife. The River Styx was not just a boundary but a carefully regulated threshold, guarded by Charon to ensure that only those who were ready and prepared could enter the underworld. This sense of order reflects the broader Greek and Roman worldview, which valued balance, justice, and the rule of divine law. Charon, in this sense, was not just a ferryman but a guardian of cosmic order, ensuring that the transition from life to death followed the proper channels. The journey across the Styx also symbolizes the soul's purification and transformation. In many ways, the river itself represents a cleansing force, washing away the impurities of earthly life and preparing the soul for its new existence. Charon's role in this process underscores the belief that death was not just an end but a necessary step in the soul's evolution. This idea resonates with the broader themes of renewal and rebirth found in many ancient myths and religious practices. By examining Charon's role through the lens of ancient Greek and Roman beliefs, we gain a deeper understanding of how these cultures viewed death and the afterlife. Charon was not merely a mythological figure, but a symbol of the profound and universal truths about mortality, transition, and the enduring nature of the soul. As we move forward, we'll explore how these themes are further reflected in Charon's interactions with other underworld figures and his place within the broader mythology of the afterlife. Now, let's shift our focus to how Charon has been immortalized in art and literature, where his haunting presence has captivated audiences for centuries. In ancient Greek pottery, Charon is often depicted as a grim, shadowy figure, his hooded form leaning over his oar as he guides souls across the River Styx. These early artistic representations emphasize his role as a solemn and unyielding ferryman, a figure both feared and respected. One of the most striking examples can be found on Athenian funerary vases, where Charon is shown standing in his boat waiting to receive the dead. These images not only reflect the ancient Greeks' beliefs about death, but also serve as a visual reminder of the inevitability of the journey to the underworld. In literature, Charon's character has been brought to life in some of the most iconic works of ancient storytelling. In Homer's Odyssey, though Charon himself does not appear, the concept of the ferryman is hinted at through the description of the underworld and its rivers. However, it is in Virgil's Aeneid that Charon takes on a more prominent role. In this epic poem, Aeneas encounters Charon during his descent into the underworld, where the ferryman initially refuses to carry the living hero across the Styx. This scene highlights Charon's strict adherence to the rules of the afterlife, as well as his fearsome demeanor. Virgil's vivid description of Charon as a grizzled, aged figure with fiery eyes and a tattered cloak has influenced countless interpretations of the ferryman in later works. Another significant portrayal of Charon comes from Dante Alighieri's Inferno, part of his Divine Comedy. Here, Charon is reimagined as a demonic figure, ferrying the damned across the river Acron to the gates of hell. Dante's depiction of Charon as a wrathful and impatient guide reflects the medieval Christian view of the afterlife as a place of punishment and judgment. This interpretation stands in contrast to the more neutral role Charon plays in ancient Greek and Roman mythology, showcasing how his character has evolved across different cultures and time periods. Beyond these famous works, Charon has also appeared in lesser-known texts and artistic traditions. In Etruscan art, for example, he is sometimes depicted with a hammer, a symbol of his role as a psychopomp or guide of souls. This unique portrayal underscores the cultural variations in how Charon was understood and represented. Even in modern times, Charon continues to inspire artists and writers, his image serving as a powerful symbol of the boundary between life and death. By exploring Charon's presence in art and literature, we gain a deeper appreciation for how this enigmatic figure has shaped our understanding of the afterlife. His depictions across different mediums not only reflect the values and beliefs of the cultures that created them, but also reveal the enduring fascination with the journey beyond death. As we continue, we'll delve into how Charon's role influenced ancient funerary practices and the rituals surrounding death. Now, let's turn our attention to how Charon's role shaped the way ancient societies approached death and the rituals surrounding it. In ancient Greece and Rome, the belief in Charon as the ferryman of the dead was deeply intertwined with funerary practices. The idea that a soul needed to pay Charon for passage across the River Styx led to a specific burial custom, placing a coin, often called an obol, in the mouth of the deceased. This coin was meant to serve as payment for Charon, ensuring the soul could cross the river and enter the underworld. Without this payment, it was believed that the soul would be left to wander the shores of the Styx for 100 years, unable to find peace. This practice highlights the importance ancient cultures placed on a proper burial. Families went to great lengths to ensure their loved ones were prepared for the journey to the afterlife. The act of placing the coin in the mouth was not just a symbolic gesture, but a necessary step to secure the deceased's passage. It also reflected a broader belief in the need for rituals to honor the dead and maintain harmony between the living and the spiritual world. Beyond the coin, other burial customs were influenced by Charon's role. For example, some graves included small boats or boat-shaped offerings, symbolizing the journey across the Styx. These items were meant to assist the soul in its passage, further emphasizing the importance of Charon's ferry in the transition from life to death. In some cases, mourners would even place oars or miniature oars in the grave, reinforcing the connection to Charon's boat and the journey it represented. The fear of being denied passage by Charon also led to the practice of ensuring that the dead were buried with dignity and respect. A proper burial was seen as a moral obligation, not just for the deceased but for the living as well. Neglecting these rites was believed to bring misfortune or even anger from the gods, as it disrupted the natural order of life and death. This belief underscores how deeply Charon's role was embedded in the cultural and spiritual fabric of ancient societies. Interestingly, these practices were not limited to Greece and Rome. Similar customs can be found in other cultures influenced by Greek mythology, where the idea of a ferryman or guide for the dead appears in various forms. This widespread influence shows how Charon's legend transcended borders, shaping funerary traditions across the ancient world. By examining these burial practices, we gain insight into how Charon's role as the ferryman of the dead was more than just a mythological concept. It was a guiding principle that shaped the way people understood and prepared for death. These rituals remind us of the profound connection between myth and daily life in the ancient world, where the journey to the afterlife was as important as the life that preceded it. As we move forward, we'll explore how Charon fits into the broader geography of the underworld and his interactions with other figures like Cerberus, the guardian of the dead. Now, let's navigate deeper into the underworld itself, where Charon's role takes on even greater significance within its intricate geography. The ancient Greeks envisioned the underworld as a vast, shadowy realm, divided into distinct regions, each with its own purpose and inhabitants. At the heart of this realm lies the River Styx, the boundary between the world of the living and the dead, where Charon's ferry operates as the sole means of crossing. But the underworld is far more than just a river. It's a complex landscape filled with rivers, plains, and dark caverns, each serving as a stage for the journey of the soul. Charon's ferry is the first step in this journey, but it's only the beginning. Once souls cross the Styx, they enter a world governed by Hades, the god of the underworld, and populated by a host of other mythical figures. Among these is Cerberus, the fearsome three-headed dog who guards the gates of the underworld. Cerberus ensures that no living soul enters and no dead soul escapes, acting as a final checkpoint before the souls are judged. Charon and Cerberus, though serving different roles, are both essential to maintaining the order of the underworld. While Charon transports the souls, Cerberus stands as their final sentinel, embodying the unyielding nature of death itself. The geography of the underworld also includes other rivers, each with its own symbolic meaning. The Charon, for example, is often associated with pain and sorrow, while the Lethe is the river of forgetfulness, where souls drink to erase their memories of the living world. These rivers, along with the Styx, form a network of waterways that guide the souls through their journey, with Charon's ferry serving as the crucial link between them. The underworld's geography isn't just a backdrop, it's a reflection of the ancient belief in the soul's journey, with each river and region representing a stage in the transition from life to death. Charon's interactions with other underworld figures further highlight his importance within this realm. While he is often seen as a solitary figure, his role is deeply connected to the broader workings of the underworld. For instance, after delivering souls to the shores of the Styx, they are often met by judges like Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, who determine their fate in the afterlife. Charon's ferry is the gateway to this process, making him an indispensable part of the underworld's hierarchy. His presence ensures that the journey of the soul is not just a physical passage but a spiritual one, guided by the rules and rituals of the afterlife. This intricate geography and the interplay between its figures reveal how Charon's role extends beyond mere transportation. He is a key figure in the underworld's ecosystem, ensuring that the souls of the dead are guided, judged, and placed according to the ancient beliefs about justice and the afterlife. As we continue, we'll explore how Charon's role reflects the moral and spiritual values of the ancient world, shedding light on the deeper meanings behind his legend. Now, let's turn our attention to a fascinating aspect of Charon's character, his moral ambiguity. Unlike many figures in mythology who are clearly defined as heroes or villains, Charon occupies a more complex space. Was he a neutral ferryman simply doing his job, a punisher enforcing the rules of the underworld, or perhaps a guide helping souls navigate their final journey? The answer isn't straightforward, and that's what makes his role so intriguing. In many ancient texts, Charon is portrayed as a neutral figure, a dutiful servant of the underworld who neither judges nor punishes the souls he transports. His task is clear: to ferry the dead across the River Styx, ensuring they reach their destination. This neutrality reflects the ancient belief in the inevitability of death, a force that is neither good nor evil, but simply a part of the natural order. Charon's role, in this sense, mirrors the impartiality of death itself, a concept that transcends human notions of morality. However, there are also interpretations that paint Charon in a more ominous light. Some myths suggest that he could be harsh or even cruel, particularly toward those who failed to pay the required coin for passage. Souls without the obol were left to wander the shores of the Styx, unable to cross and condemned to a restless existence. In these stories, Charon becomes a figure of enforcement, ensuring that the rules of the afterlife are upheld. This aspect of his character highlights the ancient belief in the importance of rituals and proper burial practices, as well as the consequences of neglecting them. On the other hand, there are moments when Charon appears almost compassionate, acting as a guide for the souls he transports. In some tales, he offers a sense of finality and closure, helping the dead accept their fate and move on to the next stage of their journey. This duality, part enforcer, part guide, reflects the ancient understanding of death as both a harsh reality and a necessary transition. Charon's role, then, becomes a metaphor for the balance between justice and mercy, punishment and guidance. This moral ambiguity also ties into broader themes of ancient Greek and Roman beliefs about the afterlife. The underworld was seen as a place where souls were judged and their deeds in life weighed against a divine standard of justice. Charon's role as the ferryman, standing at the threshold of this process, embodies the tension between fate and free will, justice and compassion. His character reminds us that the journey to the afterlife was not just a physical passage but a moral one, shaped by the choices and actions of the living. As we reflect on Charon's moral ambiguity, it's clear that his character is far more than a simple ferryman. He represents the complexities of death, justice, and the human condition, offering a window into how the ancients grappled with these profound questions. Next, we'll explore how Charon's enduring legacy has shaped modern interpretations of his role, revealing why he remains such a compelling figure in mythology and beyond. Now, let's shift our focus to how Charon's legacy has transcended ancient mythology and found new life in modern interpretations. Over the centuries, Charon has been reimagined in countless ways, appearing in literature, film, and pop culture as a symbol of death, transition, and the unknown. His enduring appeal lies in his ability to embody the mysteries of the afterlife, making him a compelling figure for storytellers and audiences alike. In modern literature, Charon often appears as a haunting yet fascinating character, serving as a bridge between the living and the dead. For instance, in Rick Riordan's popular Percy Jackson series, Charon is depicted as a stylish yet intimidating figure, blending ancient mythology with contemporary flair. This portrayal captures his timeless role as the ferryman while adding a layer of humor and relatability for modern readers. Similarly, in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman comics, Charon is reimagined as a somber, almost melancholic figure, reflecting the weight of his eternal duty. These adaptations highlight how Charon's character can be molded to fit different narratives while retaining his core essence. Film and television have also embraced Charon, often using his imagery to evoke a sense of foreboding or inevitability. In movies like Dante's Inferno and Clash of the Titans, Charon is portrayed as a grim, otherworldly figure, emphasizing his role as a guide to the underworld. These depictions often draw on his traditional appearance, hooded, skeletal, and wielding an oar, but infuse him with a cinematic intensity that resonates with modern audiences. Even in animated works such as Disney's Hercules, Charon's presence adds a layer of mythological depth, reminding viewers of the ancient roots behind the story. Pop culture has also found creative ways to incorporate Charon, often using him as a metaphor for life's transitions or the passage of time. In video games like Hades, Charon is reimagined as a silent, enigmatic merchant, blending his mythological role with gameplay mechanics. This clever twist not only pays homage to his origins but also introduces him to a new generation of fans. Similarly, in music and art, Charon's imagery is often used to explore themes of mortality, transformation, and the unknown, proving that his symbolism remains as powerful today as it was in ancient times. What makes Charon so enduring is his ability to adapt to different contexts while maintaining his core identity. Whether he's portrayed as a stern enforcer, a melancholic guide, or a mysterious merchant, Charon continues to captivate audiences because he represents something universal, the journey into the unknown. His character reminds us that death, while inevitable, is also a transition, a passage to something beyond our understanding. This duality makes him a timeless figure, one that resonates across cultures and generations. As we explore Charon's modern interpretations, it's clear that his appeal lies in his ability to evolve while staying true to his mythological roots. Next, we'll delve into how Charon's role as a ferryman symbolizes the passage of time, offering a deeper understanding of his significance in both ancient and contemporary contexts. Now, let's turn our attention to how Charon's role as the ferryman of the dead extends beyond mythology to symbolize something even more profound: the passage of time itself. In ancient Greek and Roman thought, Charon wasn't just a guide to the afterlife. He was a living metaphor for the relentless march of time and the inevitability of death. His boat, eternally crossing the River Styx, mirrors the way time carries us all forward, whether we're ready or not. This connection between Charon and time is deeply rooted in the idea that life is a journey with a definitive end, and Charon's presence serves as a constant reminder of that truth. In many ways, Charon's ferry represents the transition from one state of being to another, much like how time moves us from one phase of life to the next. The River Styx, often described as dark and uncharted, mirrors the uncertainty of the future. Just as Charon's passengers cannot turn back once they've boarded his boat, we too cannot reverse the flow of time. This symbolism resonates across cultures as the concept of time as an unstoppable force is universal. Charon, with his solemn duty, embodies the idea that time waits for no one and death is the ultimate destination we all share. This connection between Charon and time is further emphasized in ancient art and literature. For example, in some depictions, Charon is shown with an hourglass, a clear nod to his role as a keeper of time. The hourglass, with its sand steadily trickling down, serves as a visual reminder of life's fleeting nature. Even in modern interpretations, this theme persists. In works like the Sandman comics, Charon's melancholic demeanor reflects the weight of his eternal task, as if he's not just ferrying souls but also bearing witness to the endless cycle of life and death. The inevitability of death, symbolized by Charon, also ties into the broader philosophical concept of memento mori, the reminder of mortality. Ancient philosophers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius often spoke of death as a natural part of life, urging people to live with purpose and awareness of their limited time. Charon, in this context, becomes more than a mythological figure. He's a symbol of the urgency to make the most of the time we have. His presence in myths and stories serves as a call to reflect on our own lives and the legacy we'll leave behind. As we explore Charon's connection to time, it's clear that his role transcends mere mythology. He's a timeless figure, representing not just the journey to the afterlife, but also the journey of life itself. His boat, forever crossing the River Styx, reminds us that time is both a gift and a force beyond our control. Next, we'll examine how Charon's symbolism extends even further, as we compare him to similar ferrymen in other mythologies, uncovering the shared themes that connect cultures across the ages. Now, let's broaden our perspective and see how Charon's role as the ferryman of the dead finds echoes in other mythologies around the world. While Charon is uniquely tied to Greek and Roman traditions, the concept of a guide who transports souls to the afterlife is a recurring theme across cultures. This shared imagery highlights how different civilizations grappled with the mysteries of death and the journey beyond. In Egyptian mythology, we encounter Charon, the ferryman who carries the souls of the deceased across the waters of the underworld. Unlike Charon, who is often depicted as a solitary figure, Charon is sometimes shown as part of a larger divine system, working alongside gods like Osiris and Anubis. Charon's boat, much like Charon's, symbolizes the transition from life to death, but in Egyptian belief, this journey is also tied to the cycle of rebirth. The Nile River, a central symbol of life and renewal in Egypt, mirrors the River Styx in its role as a boundary between worlds. Yet, while Charon's passengers face an eternal afterlife, Charon's journey often leads to the possibility of resurrection, reflecting the Egyptian emphasis on renewal and the afterlife as a continuation of existence. Turning to Norse mythology, we meet Harbardr, a mysterious boatman who appears in the poetic Edda. Harbardr, often interpreted as an aspect of Odin, is a trickster figure who tests the courage and wit of those who seek passage across the water. Unlike Charon, who demands a coin for his services, Harbardr challenges his passengers with riddles and questions, making the crossing a test of character rather than a simple transaction. This difference reflects the Norse worldview, where honor and bravery were paramount, even in the face of death. The waters Harbardr navigates are not just a boundary but a proving ground, emphasizing the Norse belief in the importance of personal strength and integrity. These comparisons reveal fascinating parallels and contrasts. While Charon, Charon, and Harbardr all serve as guides to the afterlife, their roles and the symbolism surrounding them reflect the unique values and beliefs of their respective cultures. Charon's solemn duty underscores the inevitability of death. Charon's journey ties into the hope of rebirth, and Harbardr's challenges highlight the importance of personal virtue. Together, these ferrymen remind us that while the journey to the afterlife may be universal, the way we understand and depict it is deeply shaped by our cultural context. As we explore these connections, it becomes clear that the figure of the ferryman is more than just a mythological trope. He is a powerful symbol of humanity's attempts to make sense of life's greatest mystery, what lies beyond death. Next, we'll delve into stories of living individuals who encountered Charon, exploring how these tales blur the line between life and death and what they reveal about ancient beliefs and fears. Now, let's step into a realm where the boundaries between life and death blur as we explore stories of living individuals who encountered Charon. These tales, often rooted in near-death experiences or magical journeys, offer a fascinating glimpse into how ancient cultures imagine the possibility of crossing into the underworld and returning to tell the tale. One of the most famous accounts comes from the myth of Orpheus, the legendary musician who ventured into the underworld to retrieve his beloved Eurydice. When Orpheus reached the banks of the River Styx, it was Charon who stood as the gatekeeper, demanding payment for passage. But Orpheus, armed with nothing but his lyre and his grief, charmed Charon with his music, convincing the ferryman to let him cross without the customary coin. This story not only highlights Charon's role as a guardian of the underworld, but also underscores the power of art and emotion to transcend even the strictest rules of the afterlife. It's a reminder that love and creativity can challenge the very fabric of fate. Another intriguing tale involves the hero Hercules, who, during one of his 12 labors, descended into the underworld to capture Cerberus, the three-headed hound of Hades. To reach his goal, Hercules had to confront Charon, who initially refused to ferry a living soul across the Styx. But Hercules, known for his strength and determination, overpowered Charon and took the ferryman's boat for himself. This encounter paints Charon as a figure who, while formidable, is not invincible, and it reflects the ancient Greek admiration for heroes who could defy even the gods and the natural order. Hercules' journey also serves as a metaphor for the human struggle against mortality, showing that even the most daunting obstacles can be overcome with courage and resolve. In some lesser-known stories, ordinary mortals are said to have encountered Charon through near-death experiences. These individuals, often on the brink of death, describe seeing the ferryman waiting to guide them across the river. But in these tales, Charon's presence is not always a sign of doom. Sometimes it's a warning, urging the living to re-evaluate their lives and make amends before it's too late. These narratives suggest that Charon's role extends beyond mere transportation. He is also a symbol of reflection and transformation, reminding us that the journey to the afterlife is as much about the soul's readiness as it is about the physical crossing. What ties these stories together is the idea that encountering Charon is not just a brush with death but a profound moment of reckoning. Whether it's Orpheus's love, Hercules' strength, or an ordinary person's second chance, these tales teach us that the boundary between life and death is not just a physical divide but a space for introspection, growth, and even redemption. As we continue our exploration, we'll delve into how Charon's role was interpreted in the mystical traditions of Orphism, shedding light on the deeper spiritual meanings behind his enigmatic figure. Now, let's turn our attention to the mystical world of Orphism, where Charon's role takes on a deeper, more spiritual significance. Orphism, a religious movement in ancient Greece, offered a unique perspective on the afterlife, emphasizing purification, reincarnation, and the soul's journey toward liberation. In this context, Charon was not just a ferryman but a key figure in the soul's passage through the underworld, guiding it toward its ultimate destiny. Central to Orphic beliefs was the idea that the soul underwent a series of trials and transformations after death. Charon's role in this process was crucial, as he transported souls across the River Styx, the first step in their journey toward judgment and rebirth. Unlike in mainstream Greek mythology, where Charon's task was often seen as purely functional, Orphism imbued his role with a sense of sacred duty. He was seen as a guardian of the threshold, ensuring that only those who were prepared could continue their journey. One of the most fascinating aspects of Orphic traditions was the use of gold tablets, often buried with the deceased. These tablets contained instructions and prayers meant to guide the soul in the afterlife. Many of these texts specifically addressed Charon, urging him to show kindness and grant safe passage. For example, one tablet reads, "I come pure from the pure, O Charon, grant me passage to the sacred meadows." This suggests that Orphic followers believed Charon could be swayed by the purity and righteousness of the soul, adding a layer of moral significance to his role. Rituals also played a significant part in how Orphism viewed Charon. Followers of this tradition often engaged in purification rites and initiations aimed at preparing the soul for its journey. These practices were believed to ensure that the soul would be recognized as worthy by Charon and other underworld deities. The emphasis on purity and preparation highlights the Orphic belief that the afterlife was not a fixed destination, but a dynamic process shaped by the soul's actions and spiritual readiness. Interestingly, Orphism also introduced the concept of reincarnation, which added another dimension to Charon's role. In this belief system, the soul's journey across the Styx was just one stage in a cycle of death and rebirth. Charon, therefore, was not merely a ferryman to the afterlife, but a facilitator of the soul's ongoing evolution. This perspective transforms him from a grim figure of finality into a guide who helps the soul navigate the complexities of existence. What sets Orphism apart is its focus on the soul's liberation from the cycle of rebirth. Charon, in this context, becomes a symbol of transition and transformation, helping the soul move closer to its ultimate goal of unity with the divine. This mystical interpretation of Charon's role reflects the Orphic emphasis on inner purity, spiritual growth, and the eternal nature of the soul. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of Charon, we'll next explore how his role intersects with the concept of judgment in the afterlife, shedding light on whether he was seen as a mere transporter or a figure with the power to influence the fate of souls. Now, let's delve into the intriguing question of whether Charon, the ferryman of the dead, had any role in judging souls or if his duty was simply to transport them across the River Styx. This topic opens a window into how ancient Greeks and Romans viewed the afterlife, morality, and the fate of the soul. In most traditional accounts, Charon's role is clear. He ferries souls from the world of the living to the realm of the dead. His task is functional, not judicial. He doesn't decide the fate of the souls he carries, he merely ensures they reach their destination. This aligns with the broader Greek mythological framework, where judgment was typically the domain of other underworld figures, such as the judges Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus. These figures determined whether a soul would be rewarded in the Elysian fields, punished in Tartarus, or sent to the asphodel meadows for a neutral existence. However, some interpretations suggest that Charon's role might have carried an implicit element of judgment. For instance, the requirement of the coin for passage placing an obol in the mouth of the deceased could be seen as a form of moral test. Those who were properly buried and prepared for the journey were deemed worthy of crossing, while those who lacked the coin were left to wander the shores of the Styx. This practice reflects the ancient belief that proper burial rites were not just a matter of tradition but a moral obligation, with consequences for the soul's afterlife. In Orphic traditions, as we've explored earlier, Charon's role takes on a more spiritual dimension. The gold tablets buried with the dead often contained pleas for Charon to recognize the soul's purity and grant safe passage. This suggests that, in this context, Charon might have had some discretion in deciding which souls were prepared to continue their journey. While he wasn't a judge in the traditional sense, his actions could influence the soul's progression, adding a layer of moral significance to his role. The concept of judgment in the afterlife was deeply tied to ancient beliefs about justice and morality. The idea that one's actions in life would determine their fate after death was a powerful motivator for ethical behavior. Charon, as the first figure encountered in the underworld, symbolized the transition from life to death and the beginning of this process of reckoning. Even if he didn't directly judge souls, his role as the gatekeeper of the Styx reinforced the idea that the journey to the afterlife was not arbitrary but governed by rules and rituals. This duality, Charon as both a neutral transporter and a figure with potential influence over the soul's fate, reflects the complexity of ancient beliefs about death and the afterlife. It shows how mythology often blends practical functions with deeper symbolic meanings, creating figures who are both literal and metaphorical. As we move forward, we'll explore how Charon's role has been interpreted in philosophy, particularly in the works of thinkers like Plato and Socrates, who used his figure to explore profound questions about the soul, death, and the nature of existence. Turning now to the realm of philosophy, we find that Charon's role as the ferryman of the dead took on a deeper, more symbolic meaning in the works of ancient thinkers like Plato and Socrates. These philosophers often used mythological figures to explore profound questions about life, death, and the nature of the soul, and Charon was no exception. In their writings, he became more than just a ferryman. He was a metaphor for the transition from the physical world to the spiritual realm, embodying the mysteries of existence itself. Plato, in particular, referenced Charon in his dialogues to illustrate the journey of the soul after death. In his work Phaedo, which recounts the final moments of Socrates' life, the philosopher discusses the idea that the soul must be purified before it can enter the afterlife. Here, Charon's boat becomes a symbol of this purification process. Just as the ferryman carries souls across the River Styx, the soul must navigate the waters of transformation, leaving behind the impurities of the physical world to reach a higher state of being. Plato's use of Charon underscores the belief that death is not an end but a passage, a transition to a new form of existence. Socrates, too, invoked Charon in his teachings, often using the ferryman as a way to confront the fear of death. In his famous assertion that philosophy is the practice of dying and being dead, Socrates suggests that the soul's journey to the afterlife is a natural and necessary process. Charon, in this context, represents the inevitability of death and the need to prepare for it through philosophical reflection. By embracing the idea of the ferryman, Socrates encourages his followers to view death not as something to fear but as a gateway to a deeper understanding of the self and the universe. Beyond these direct references, Charon's symbolism in philosophy also reflects broader themes about morality and the afterlife. The requirement of the coin for passage, for example, can be seen as a metaphor for the ethical choices we make in life. Just as the soul must pay Charon to cross the Styx, individuals must live virtuously to ensure a favorable outcome in the afterlife. This idea aligns with the philosophical belief that our actions have consequences, not just in this life but in the next. Charon's presence in philosophical discourse highlights the enduring power of mythology to convey complex ideas. By weaving the ferryman into their explorations of death and the soul, Plato and Socrates transformed him from a mere figure of legend into a profound symbol of human existence. His journey across the Styx became a metaphor for the soul's quest for meaning, reminding us that life and death are part of a greater, interconnected cycle. As we continue, we'll explore how Charon's legacy extends beyond philosophy into the realm of epic poetry, where his role takes on new dimensions in works like Virgil's Aeneid and Dante's Inferno. These literary masterpieces further cement his place as one of mythology's most enduring and thought-provoking figures. Shifting our focus to the world of epic poetry, we find Charon's presence taking on a vivid and dramatic form in some of the most celebrated works of literature. In Virgil's Aeneid, Charon plays a pivotal role as Aeneas, the hero of the poem, descends into the underworld. Here, the ferryman is depicted as a stern and unyielding figure, his boat a necessary but daunting means of crossing the River Styx. Virgil's portrayal of Charon emphasizes his role as a gatekeeper of the afterlife, a figure who demands respect and obedience from those who seek passage. This depiction not only reinforces Charon's mythological significance, but also adds a layer of tension and gravity to Aeneas' journey, underscoring the challenges of navigating the realm of the dead. Dante's Inferno offers another striking interpretation of Charon, this time within the framework of Christian theology. In the first part of the Divine Comedy, Dante encounters Charon as he begins his descent into hell. Here, the Ferryman is transformed into a fearsome and wrathful figure, his appearance reflecting the torment and despair of the damned. Dante's Charon is less a neutral guide and more a symbol of divine justice, his role expanded to include the task of ferrying souls to their eternal punishment. This adaptation of Charon's character highlights the way mythological figures can be reimagined to fit new cultural and religious contexts while still retaining their core symbolism. Both Virgil and Dante used Charon to explore themes of mortality, judgment, and the afterlife, but they do so in ways that reflect their unique perspectives. In the Aeneid, Charon's role is tied to the hero's quest for destiny and the founding of Rome, emphasizing the idea of a journey that transcends death. In Inferno, Charon becomes a harbinger of divine retribution, his presence a reminder of the consequences of sin and the inevitability of divine justice. These contrasting portrayals demonstrate how Charon's character can be adapted to serve different narrative and thematic purposes, while still remaining a powerful symbol of the transition between life and death. The influence of these epic poems on Charon's legacy cannot be overstated. Through Virgil and Dante, the Ferryman became more than just a figure of myth. He became a literary archetype, a symbol of the boundary between worlds that continues to resonate with readers and writers alike. His appearances in these works have cemented his place in the cultural imagination, ensuring that his story remains a source of fascination and inspiration for centuries to come. As we move forward, we'll delve into how Charon's fearsome appearance and role contributed to ancient fears of death and the unknown, exploring the psychological impact of his mythology on those who encountered his legend. Now, let's turn our attention to the darker side of Charon's mythology and how his fearsome presence shaped ancient perceptions of death and the unknown. Charon's grim appearance, often described as a shadowy, hooded figure with a skeletal or gaunt visage, was designed to evoke unease. His role as the ferryman of the dead placed him at the threshold between life and death, a boundary that was both mysterious and terrifying to the ancient Greeks and Romans. This imagery wasn't just for dramatic effect. It served as a powerful reminder of the inevitability of death and the uncertainty of what lay beyond. The fear surrounding Charon wasn't just about his appearance, it was also tied to the consequences of failing to secure passage across the River Styx. Souls who couldn't pay the required coin were doomed to wander the shores for 100 years, a fate that struck dread into the hearts of the living. This belief reinforced the importance of proper burial rites and the need to prepare for the afterlife, as neglecting these traditions could lead to eternal unrest. Charon, in this sense, became a symbol of the ultimate judgment, a figure who held the power to grant or deny peace in the afterlife. But Charon's role also tapped into a deeper, more universal fear, the fear of the unknown. Death for the ancients was a journey into uncharted territory, and Charon was the guide who navigated this perilous transition. His presence at the edge of the underworld served as a constant reminder that death was not just an end, but a passage into something vast and incomprehensible. This duality of Charon as both a necessary guide and a harbinger of dread made him a figure of both reverence and terror. Interestingly, this fear wasn't limited to the individual. Charon's mythology also reflected broader societal anxieties about mortality and the afterlife. In a world where life was often short and unpredictable, the idea of a final, inescapable journey resonated deeply. Charon's boat became a metaphor for the fragility of life, a vessel carrying souls into the unknown with no guarantee of what lay on the other side. This imagery permeated art, literature, and even daily life, shaping how people thought about death and their own mortality. As we reflect on Charon's role in ancient fears, it's clear that his mythology served as more than just a cautionary tale. It was a way for people to grapple with the mysteries of existence, to confront their fears, and to find meaning in the face of the inevitable. Charon's legacy, then, is not just one of fear, but also of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of the unknown, humanity has always sought to understand and navigate the journey beyond. Next, we'll uncover how Charon's connection to the moon and celestial bodies adds another layer of intrigue to his already complex mythology. Now, let's journey into a lesser explored aspect of Charon's mythology, his intriguing connection to the moon and celestial bodies. While Charon is most famously tied to the River Styx and the underworld, some ancient myths and interpretations suggest a fascinating link between the Ferryman and the moon. This connection adds a layer of mystery to his already enigmatic character, hinting at deeper symbolic meanings that resonate across cultures and time. In certain traditions, Charon's role as a guide between realms aligns with the moon's cyclical nature. Just as the moon transitions through phases, waxing, full, waning, and new, Charon symbolizes the transition from life to death and potentially rebirth. The moon has long been associated with cycles, change, and the passage of time, making it a fitting counterpart to Charon's role as the ferryman who ushers souls into the afterlife. This parallel suggests that Charon's journey across the River Styx might not just be a one-way trip but part of a larger, eternal cycle. Some scholars have also drawn connections between Charon and lunar deities in other mythologies. For example, in ancient Egyptian beliefs, the moon god Thoth was associated with judgment and the afterlife, much like Charon. Similarly, in Mesopotamian traditions, the moon god Sin was seen as a guardian of time and fate, echoing Charon's role as a figure who oversees the transition between life and death. These cross-cultural parallels highlight how Charon's symbolism might extend beyond Greek and Roman mythology, intertwining with broader celestial themes. Another intriguing interpretation ties Charon's boat to the crescent moon. The shape of his vessel, often depicted as a small, curved boat, mirrors the crescent moon's arc. This visual similarity could symbolize the idea of carrying souls through the darkness, guided by the faint light of the moon, much like how the moon illuminates the night sky. In this sense, Charon's boat becomes not just a means of transportation but a celestial vessel, bridging the earthly and the divine. The moon's association with mystery and the unknown further deepens Charon's connection to it. Just as the moon's surface hides secrets and unseen landscapes, the underworld represents a realm shrouded in enigma. Charon, as the ferryman, becomes a guide through this darkness, much like the moon's light offers a glimmer of hope in the night. This duality of light and shadow, life and death reinforces the idea that Charon's role is not just about ferrying souls, but about navigating the profound mysteries of existence. As we explore these lesser-known myths, it's clear that Charon's connection to the moon and celestial bodies adds a rich layer of symbolism to his mythology. Whether as a symbol of cycles, a guide through darkness, or a bridge between realms, Charon's lunar ties remind us that his story is as vast and multifaceted as the night sky itself. Next, we'll delve into how Charon's legacy continues to influence modern funerary practices, bridging the ancient and the contemporary. Now, let's turn our attention to how Charon's ancient role as the ferryman of the dead continues to echo in modern funerary practices and our broader attitudes toward death. While the rituals of ancient Greece and Rome may seem distant, the symbolism of Charon's journey has left a lasting imprint on how we honor and understand the passage from life to death. One of the most direct influences can be seen in the tradition of placing coins with the deceased. Though the specific practice of placing an obol in the mouth of the dead has faded, the idea of providing payment or tokens for the journey to the afterlife persists in various forms. In some cultures, coins are still placed in caskets or graves as a symbolic gesture, ensuring the deceased has what they need for their passage. This echoes Charon's demand for payment, reflecting a universal human desire to prepare loved ones for the unknown. Beyond physical tokens, Charon's role as a guide has shaped how we conceptualize death itself. In many modern funerals, the imagery of crossing a threshold or journeying to another realm remains central. Eulogies often speak of the deceased moving on or finding peace, metaphors that mirror Charon's ferry ride across the River Styx. These ideas remind us that death is not an end but a transition, a concept deeply rooted in Charon's mythology. Even the structure of modern funeral services can be traced back to ancient practices influenced by Charon. The act of gathering to honor the dead, offering prayers or words of remembrance, and ensuring the deceased is properly prepared for their journey all reflect the ancient Greek and Roman emphasis on a respectful and orderly passage to the afterlife. Charon's role as a figure who demands respect and preparation has subtly shaped these traditions, emphasizing the importance of ritual in confronting death. In addition to rituals, Charon's legacy can be seen in how we approach grief and mourning. The idea of a ferryman who safely transports souls to the afterlife offers a sense of comfort and closure, suggesting that death is not a chaotic or frightening event but a guided journey. This perspective has influenced modern attitudes, encouraging people to view death as a natural part of life's cycle rather than something to be feared. Interestingly, Charon's influence extends even into modern art and literature, where his imagery is often used to explore themes of mortality and transition. From poetry to visual art, the figure of the ferryman continues to inspire creative expressions of what it means to face death and what lies beyond. This enduring presence in culture underscores how deeply Charon's symbolism resonates with our collective understanding of life's final journey. As we reflect on Charon's legacy, it's clear that his role as the ferryman of the dead has transcended ancient mythology, shaping not only how we honor the deceased but also how we think about death itself. From coins in caskets to metaphors of crossing over, Charon's influence is a testament to the enduring power of myth to guide us through life's most profound mysteries. Next, we'll explore how Charon's character has been reimagined in modern media, bridging the ancient and the contemporary in fascinating new ways. Shifting our focus to the realm of modern storytelling, Charon's enduring presence in contemporary media reveals just how captivating his character remains. From the pages of novels to the immersive worlds of video games, the ferryman of the dead has been reimagined in countless ways, each adaptation breathing new life into this ancient figure while preserving his core essence. In literature, Charon often appears as a symbol of transition or a gatekeeper to the unknown. Authors have used his character to explore themes of mortality, judgment, and the afterlife, weaving his mythology into narratives that resonate with modern audiences. For instance, in Neil Gaiman's The Sandman series, Charon is portrayed as a stoic yet compassionate figure, embodying the solemnity of his role while adding layers of depth to his personality. This reinterpretation highlights how Charon's archetype can be adapted to fit diverse storytelling styles, from dark fantasy to philosophical exploration. Video games, with their interactive nature, have taken Charon's character to new heights. In games like Hades, developed by Supergiant Games, Charon is depicted as a mysterious merchant who operates within the underworld, blending his traditional role with fresh, creative twists. His eerie presence and cryptic demeanor add an air of intrigue, making him a memorable part of the game's rich mythological tapestry. This adaptation not only honors Charon's origins but also introduces him to a new generation of players, ensuring his legacy continues to thrive. Film and television have also embraced Charon's symbolism, often using him to evoke a sense of foreboding or inevitability. In movies like Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, Charon appears as a modernized version of his ancient self, complete with a contemporary twist that makes him relatable to younger audiences. These portrayals demonstrate how Charon's character can be adapted to fit different genres and settings, from action-packed adventures to thought-provoking dramas. What makes Charon such a compelling figure in modern media is his versatility. As a symbol of transition, he can represent both the fear of the unknown and the hope for what lies beyond. His role as a guide between worlds allows creators to explore profound questions about life, death, and what it means to move from one state of being to another. This duality ensures that Charon remains relevant no matter the medium or the era. Moreover, Charon's enduring appeal lies in his ability to evoke a sense of mystery and gravitas. Whether he's portrayed as a grim ferryman, a cryptic merchant, or a philosophical guide, his presence adds depth and complexity to any story. By adapting his character, modern creators not only pay homage to ancient mythology, but also keep these timeless themes alive for contemporary audiences. As we continue to explore Charon's legacy, it's clear that his influence extends far beyond the ancient world. Through books, games, and films, the Ferryman of the Dead continues to captivate our imaginations, reminding us of the power of myth to transcend time and culture. Next, we'll delve into how Charon's journey across the River Styx can be interpreted as a metaphor for psychological transitions and personal growth, offering yet another layer of meaning to this ancient legend. Turning our attention to the deeper layers of Charon's myth, his journey across the River Styx offers a fascinating lens through which to explore psychological symbolism. The act of crossing the river, often seen as a boundary between life and death, can be interpreted as a metaphor for significant transitions in our own lives. Just as Charon guides souls from one realm to another, his story reflects the human experience of moving through periods of change, transformation, and self-discovery. In psychological terms, the River Styx can represent the threshold between the known and the unknown, the conscious and the unconscious. Crossing it symbolizes the courage required to confront the unfamiliar, whether that's a major life decision, a personal challenge, or a moment of profound introspection. Charon, as the ferryman, embodies the guiding force that helps us navigate these transitions, offering a sense of direction even when the path ahead seems uncertain. This metaphor extends to the concept of personal growth. Just as the souls Charon transports must leave behind their earthly existence, we too must often let go of old habits, beliefs, or relationships to move forward. The journey across the river becomes a powerful symbol of shedding the past and embracing new possibilities. It's a reminder that growth often requires us to face our fears and step into the unknown, trusting that the journey itself holds the key to transformation. Moreover, Charon's role as a neutral figure, neither punishing nor rewarding the souls he ferries, mirrors the impartial nature of life's challenges. His presence underscores the idea that transitions are not inherently good or bad, but are instead opportunities for growth and self-reflection. This perspective encourages us to approach our own crossings with a sense of curiosity and openness, rather than fear or resistance. The symbolism of Charon's journey also resonates with the concept of liminality, a psychological state of being in between. Whether it's the transition from adolescence to adulthood, the shift between careers, or the process of healing after loss, these liminal spaces are where profound change often occurs. Charon's role as a guide through these in-between moments highlights the importance of embracing uncertainty and finding meaning in the process of transformation. By viewing Charon's myth through this psychological lens, we gain a deeper understanding of its relevance to our own lives. His story becomes more than just an ancient legend. It transforms into a timeless metaphor for the human experience of growth, change, and the courage to move forward. As we reflect on Charon's journey, we're reminded that every crossing, no matter how daunting, holds the potential for renewal and self-discovery. With this exploration of Charon's psychological symbolism, we've uncovered yet another layer of meaning in his enduring myth. Next, we'll wrap up our journey through these 25 legends, summarizing the key insights and reflecting on Charon's lasting impact across cultures and time. As we bring our journey through the 25 legends of Charon to a close, it's clear that his story is far more than a simple tale of a ferryman guiding souls across the River Styx. From his origins in Greek mythology to his evolving roles in Roman and Etruscan traditions, Charon has remained a powerful symbol of transition, transformation, and the mysteries of the afterlife. His presence in ancient art, literature, and funerary practices underscores his importance in shaping how cultures understood death and the journey beyond. Through these legends, we've seen Charon as a guide, a neutral figure, and even a psychological metaphor for the human experience of change. Whether he's demanding payment for passage, navigating the waters of the underworld, or standing as a silent witness to the souls he transports, Charon embodies the universal themes of crossing boundaries and embracing the unknown. His enduring legacy reminds us that myths are not just stories of the past, they are mirrors reflecting our deepest fears, hopes, and questions about life and death. As we reflect on these 25 legends, it's worth asking, what does Charon's story mean to you? Does his journey across the River Styx resonate with your own experiences of transition or growth? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're as fascinated by mythology as we are, don't forget to explore more stories from the ancient world. There's always another legend waiting to be discovered. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the myths of Charon, the ferryman of the dead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay tuned for more captivating tales from the past. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that shape our world. Now, let's dive into some lesser-known tales about Charon that didn't make it into our main list, stories that add even more depth to this enigmatic figure. One intriguing legend comes from the ancient region of Boeotia, where Charon was sometimes depicted not as a solitary ferryman, but as a figure accompanied by mysterious spirits. These spirits were said to assist him in guiding souls, adding a layer of complexity to his role. Some interpretations suggest these spirits were the restless dead, bound to serve Charon as penance for their earthly misdeeds. This version of the myth paints Charon not just as a ferryman, but as a figure with authority over the souls he transports. Another fascinating story comes from the island of Sicily, where local folklore describes Charon as a figure who occasionally interacts with the living. In one tale, a young shepherd is said to have encountered Charon near a sacred spring. The ferryman offered the shepherd a glimpse into the underworld, but only if he agreed to keep the experience a secret. The shepherd, overwhelmed by what he saw, broke his promise and shared the vision with his village. As punishment, Charon cursed the spring, turning its waters bitter, a reminder of the consequences of breaking oaths even to the living. Finally, there's a lesser-known Etruscan variation of Charon's story that portrays him as a more menacing figure. In this version, Charon is said to wield a hammer, which he uses to strike the souls of the unworthy, preventing them from crossing the River Styx. This depiction highlights the darker, more judgmental side of Charon, contrasting with the more neutral or even compassionate portrayals found in other myths. It's a stark reminder of how differently cultures interpreted the same figure, reflecting their unique beliefs about death and justice. These lesser-known stories offer a fresh perspective on Charon, revealing facets of his character that are often overlooked. They remind us that myths are living, evolving narratives shaped by the cultures that tell them. So, what do you think of these obscure tales? Do they change your view of Charon, or do they deepen your appreciation for his role in mythology? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more hidden gems from the world of ancient legends. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that continue to shape our understanding of the past.